Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another pop astrology conversation where we talk about pop culture happenings. And today we are discussing the start of Love Island USA Season 8. And specifically, what we are focusing on is the premiere chart, just to get a sense of how this season is likely to go, and the vibe of the finale chart. Follow-up recordings, we do hope to focus on the individual cast members, but for today, we're going to keep it simple. So, as a brief introduction, my name is Jess. I'm of Spicy Gemini Memes and Spicy Gemini Astrology. I open my books at the beginning of every month and I offer a wide variety of readings from natal charts to transits to things that you might not see on my schedule, but that I am more than happy to create a bespoke reading for you for. And today I have with me a number of wonderful astrologers who I'm very excited to dive into these charts with. Marissa, would you like to say hello, or Elyse, or Akosua? Who wants to go?
Hi, everybody. I'm Marissa, Marissa Lee Astrology. I do natal chart readings, solar returns. I also do love and relational timing readings for that. And I'm really happy to be here. I love pop culture. I love pop culture astrology.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name's Akosua. I am a astrologer, or else I wouldn't be here. So I'm a Capricorn rising, Venus, I'm sorry, Leo sun, Aries moon. My books are open for readings. I do natal chart readings, solar return readings, progressions, you name it, the works. All of my offerings can be found under my link tree, and yeah.
Yay. Hi, everyone. So I'm also thrilled to be here. I like to dive into the pop culture, the reality TV, all of that. I do natal chart readings. I do a lot of piety readings. I blend a little bit of traditional and modern influences. And always excited to collaborate with people and hear people's takes.
Yes, thank you all so much. So, what we have first and foremost is this premiere. We have basically, when we look at a premiere of a TV show, it's kind of like the birth chart of that show. And last year, it was a mess. And as we saw for season 7, it was a mess. So, my question to each of you is what do you see as outstanding with this event chart? This is the correct starting time, the location is pretty good as well. What do you see?
What I see is the moon squaring Saturn and the very sober heaviness. There was like a dark cloud over it. Like it was very serious. Like the show got very serious very quickly. It wasn't really like happy, fun, lighthearted. It was just, it's got that malefic presence.
For sure. I can definitely see that. One thing I do like that I think is kind of cutesy is the ascendant ruler is the exalted Jupiter, but we do know that Jupiter has not been doing what it really wants to do with the superior square from Saturn by sign. So it's like, it's nice. However, like there are clauses attached to that niceness, which again, I think we already see with how people are bringing intensity with swiftness.
Absolutely. We got the sun in a sextile with Saturn. So, I mean, it's just like things are getting very serious very quickly. Yeah, just a very like everyone's taking it very seriously. I feel like it early on, like it's not, there's not like a lighthearted feel. And then also Mercury squaring Neptune, like immediately confusion. Like it's interesting. I don't know. I feel like production preps them, do they not? And they tell them like you're supposed to chat, like bombshells are coming, like don't invest in the very first person you meet on the very first night and what's already happening. Everyone's already like really serious and invested in their very first person, like acting like they're in a couple when it's like you're supposed to be pulling people for chats. Like that's the point of the show.
Yeah, that's a great point. Did not register the Mercury Neptune square.
So, from what I'm seeing, I think that this season's definitely going to get more international, a bit of an international reach because of
Mhm.
that Sagittarius rule chart. I do think it's going to be a little bit more taboo than the rest of the seasons, because of that first house ruler and the seventh house ruler in the eighth house. I do think that it's going to be a lot, it's going to give it a lot of drama It's going to be very dramatized. It's this season's really meant to get a lot of people talking, a lot of more. It's going to be like a gossipy. We're going to see a lot of TikToks, people's takes on it on social media. So I think this season's really just focused on getting the buzz, like just getting more traction as far as the franchise goes.
Absolutely. I just think that everyone's out for themselves this season, or it's going to be disproportionately where everyone's out for themselves than generally speaking, with the moon, Saturn square, and then the moon is also opposing Venus. It's obviously wide, but it's just, I was hoping this season would be less like, I'm gonna win, like, I'm gonna get the brand deals, and more like about love. And I do feel like that was the intent with how they scouted at least some of the cast, but it doesn't read like that to me. It does. I also would be surprised if there are any couples that really make it outside of the villa from this season. Maybe a lot of like plans with the descendant here ruled by Mercury with the square to Neptune. Fifth house is in wild shape as well, ruled by Mars in the sixth house in the sign of Taurus. It feels more like a game. As you know, my Libra placements want to see the love. I don't know if we're going to see a lot of love on Love Island this season. Elyse,
I
do you have anything?
100% agree. Oh,
Go ahead, please. Elyse, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'll chime in real quick. So like for me, a couple things stuck out. Like I was such a Nicolandria fan last year. So
Yeah.
like when I looked at this chart, I was like, oh my gosh, we don't have Nicolandria, like at least not showing up initially. Like we don't have that like it couple. And then like the MC or the highest point of the chart in like the second decan of Libra, which is associated with the Three of Swords in tarot, is like kind of like because it's kind of like dicey, you know? It's like it could be good, but it also could be like bad. So like, and we're already kind of seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point as well. Is there anything else we want to speak to with regards to this premiere chart?
I really think that influence of, the square between the moon and Saturn, it's like maybe people want a connection, but these early connections are weighed down by such heaviness that it's thwarting. Like Saturn is literally presenting a blockage to people emotionally showing up and getting there. So I think that there might be more success with like Casa and More and like Bombshells. Like
Mm,
I'm not seeing like the original couples doing really well, but maybe like pairing up with people later on who come through.
yeah.
I think there might be some more success with like Casa and More in a couple weeks.
Okay, that's a really good take. One thing I did see as part of the discourse was somebody commenting on how like the conversations are a little bit weird and stilted, and that this is the first generation of COVID high schoolers that we have. Mercury square Neptune. It's like weirdly awkward. Like it's just I've been noticing the banter is not bantering, but again, I think that's a little bit of Mercury square Neptune where like not really connecting, not really seeing the depth of the connection. And also, Marissa, what you mentioned in terms of like, we're going to be together forever. And it's like day one. Like, don't please stop. I've seen enough. Yeah.
I
So,
know,
I,
I know.
yeah.
I do see it kind of being a little of an awkward season because they got Pluto in the third house. And yeah, there's a 6 degree separating orb, but Pluto is squaring Mars
Mm.
in Taurus in the sixth. And then the fifth, since this is a love show, I want to focus on the fifth house. Saturn in the fifth house for a love show is not deal. And then the fifth house ruler in the sixth house just makes it feel taxing. I think viewers could possibly be annoyed this season, just be like, this is not fun. Like, what is this? So, yeah, that's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Any other thoughts before we move on to the finale? So we see what the sort of general conclusion is going to be like.
Let's do it.
All right. Okay, so this is the finale. I'm pretty sure it's going to be July 12th, 2026. I do want to note that there is one cast member who is a June 29th Cancer Sun, and it is Bryce, and I do not need to see that man win. I'm going to say that. I do not want to see him have anything. But he's the one where I'm like, okay, he's getting a lot of activation. And we'll discuss the cast members charts. I think that there are things working against him, but that's just something I think is worth noting. So what do we see?
So from what I'm seeing right here, I do think we're gonna get a bit of like a thrown in for a loop because of that Mars conjunct Uranus in the fifth house. Again, 6 degrees separating orb, but it's definitely worth noting. I do think there's going to be some queerness in this show that like kind of gets people like, okay, wake people up a little bit. That Uranus conjunct Mars in the fifth, I think we're going to get a gay couple, gay male couple, possibly. Gemini masculine, that's gonna throw people off. The show's definitely going through a transformation. It's gonna try to get people's attention any way that it can. So yeah, that's what I think.
I would love to see some queer Love Island experiences, to be honest with you. We're well overdue for that, in my opinion.
Agreed. Agreed.
I feel like this Mars Uranus conjunction in the fifth house, it's a switch up. It's like, what? How did they win? Actually, like that's what it feels like. For me, I do like seeing Jupiter on the descendant. I don't know if it tells any meaningful story. This is around the time Jupiter is squaring Chiron as well, so I really measuring my expectations here. But it does seem like kind of a fun finale with, of course, considering the ascendant ruler is still Saturn in the sign of Aries. So maybe it will be fun because there's a lot of infighting. Like people are mad at each other. What else do we see?
Yeah, it's giving surprise winner for me with
Mhm,
Venus
mhm.
squaring Uranus. Once again, I'm gonna say that it's gonna be like a Casa couple. So I'm gonna look, but there's a UK season. I can't remember which one it is. It's like 7 or season 9 or something. It's not very popular, but they were like the very first Casa couple to win the season. And it was like a total upset. Like that just never happens. Like it's usually an OG couple that wins.
Mhm.
And they're still together to this day, I think.
Was this
Yeah,
Jessica and Dom? No, they were the originals. Never mind. We don't
I
need to do
think
this.
his
I got
name is
excited.
like Kai or Cal or something.
Okay.
But they were a Casa couple. They were very late in the game and they won the whole show. And
Beautiful.
that's my prediction right now. I'm getting those vibes. I feel like a random late in the game couple is going to win.
Yeah, and maybe to add to that, if not a Casa couple outright, perhaps it's people who linked up at the end. And they're like, okay, let's close it out. Like we can win. I do see the North Node in the second house as I don't want this to be focused on the game so much, but I kind of see it as focused on the game, looking at the end goal of the influencer, brand deal bit. We'll see though. Elyse, do you see anything outstanding?
Yeah, like what strikes me is the moon. Like the moon in Cancer is really good
Mm.
for the moon because it's its domicile, so it's comfortable in Cancer, but it's in the sixth house, and we're like, Mercury is like retrograde and like it's in the heart of the sun. And so it's like we could have had a good thing, but like there's something like off about it. Like maybe someone's taking advantage of, maybe people are just like not having a good time on the island. Like they could be getting sick, which would be a nightmare. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like it could have been something good, but now it's kind of like, oh, like a little bit of a letdown, I guess.
The moon squaring Neptune. I just saw that. Yeah, it's giving. I don't think this is gonna be a real couple, and this isn't gonna be real love. It sucks because they figure out the game. Once they figure out the game, it's hard to make it genuine. They just keep trying to recreate things. Like the whole. I've been watching Love Island for years, but yeah, so it's like the breakfast thing. Like that was very organic. Like the guys would just make the girls breakfast because they were getting ready, and it was like cute, and they would do it when they really liked somebody. Like it was natural. They were like, "Oh, I like you. I'm gonna make you breakfast." Now it's just like they get on the show and they're like, "Oh, I have to make my girl breakfast." It's like,
Yep.
okay. Like they figured it out now, so that's probably why it's like that. So I feel like if they want to continue in the future, because they're not going to be able to recreate this success of season 6. They're going to have to like switch it up somehow, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's giving, but it's not, I feel like it's not as much Trader Island as last year. Maybe they're just more subtle about it. I just noticed how the production seemed to be so mindful of who they casted this year.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I really appreciated that. But it's like if they do have undertones that aren't duplicitous, maybe production's telling them like, okay, act like you like them even if you don't. Like, I don't know. We'll be able to see that. That's the thing about Love Island is because it's every single day, you can see when it's not genuine. So yeah, maybe a couple that's not really into each other is going to win, unfortunately.
The last thing that I want to add is Mercury retrograde. In this case, a lot of the cast members, not a lot, but several of the cast members have Mercury in like challenging shape. So, what is her name? Kenzie? Kenzie is one of them. Her Mercury is in the sign of Sagittarius, and like we're already like locked in, enjoying the show, the performance, as it were. And I'm just curious if like that's going to really impact the trajectory of this show such that we get to this point where it's like it was a hard battle, but we are finally at the finale. Like, I think it's going to be a season that's a little bit of a mess. I think it will be entertaining, but I'm also kind of getting the sense of like when it's over, we will be like, thank God. Like, we don't need to do that ever again.
What if somebody runs it back? What if somebody like couples with someone and then they want to go back to their original person?
I could
And
see
like,
that.
yeah, like it might be something like that.
So
Yeah.
another thing
So,
I'm seeing from this chart is I think whoever like the winners, it's there's a heavy emphasis on possibly a mixed race couple here. So we have an Aquarius
mm,
rule chart, which leans towards, like I don't want to say unconventional, but like not traditional. Your 11th house Lord is sitting in the seventh house. Jupiter is very like multicultural, bringing different ethnicities together. Yeah, I see a huge emphasis on like a mixed race couple for some reason.
yeah. Yeah. I
Mhm.
think that that's very plausible for sure. For sure.
Mhm.
Any other closing thoughts? So from what I'm hearing, maybe a surprise coupling, perhaps a queer representation, an upset of like, like how did they end up together? Perhaps a mixed race couple, perhaps some illness toward the end, or just some internal combustion that's not looking good. Anything that I'm missing, or are we good in settling on this assessment?
So whoever wins is definitely going to get a huge boost in their social media presence because
Yep.
of the 11th house ruler in the seventh house in Leo.
I
But
wonder
are
if
they
they
gonna
look
find
favorably
love?
as a couple. Go ahead. Say it again, Marissa.
But are they gonna find love? We know that. I mean, yeah, they're gonna be an influencer, but who
Well,
are
I'm
they?
just saying it's really good for their career, like whatever it may be. It's really gonna, somebody who was a little bit of the on like an underdog. This is gonna be a good opportunity for them to get that platform.
I kind of wonder if they will be marketed as a couple. And like even if they're not together, it's like, look, it's them. We love them or whatever. And that is part of this 11th house ruler in the 7th house of it all.
Do you think they might be friends? Do you think it might be more like a friendship couple?
It could be because that 11th house ruler opposing Pluto in the first. Pluto in
Hmm.
Aquarius is all about friends and social media and stuff like that.
You're right. Yeah, the Jupiter opposing Pluto. This is gonna be, yeah, because Maya won last year and she's not the star of the show. So yeah, I agree with you. It's whoever wins is probably gonna be the star
Hmm.
in this scenario, the couple. That makes sense. Yeah. Or they're gonna get like larger than life presence. Yeah, with the Jupiter and the Pluto opposition.
I do kind of see this as a lucrative season for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
definitely.
For
More
getting a bag.
sponsorships, more
Hmm.
sponsorships, more money. Um,
Hmm.
the whole premise of this season is to really, we might get Love Island different country into a different country, you
We
know,
have that, right? I was trying to
more,
watch, oh, yeah.
like
Expansion for more.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying
So.
to watch Love Island Malta earlier, and then I realized they don't only speak English, which obviously makes sense, but they mix languages. And like, I can't do this. But they're all beautiful people, but I can't do this.
Love Island Malta.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that. Oh, yeah, it's kind of like Love is Blind. They have like 20 Love is Blinds now.
Mhm.
Yep.
Interesting.
Okay. So, any other last fleeting thoughts before we wrap this up for today? Okay. Well, Thank you so much for listening. We do see this as a particularly messy season, which we love, right? Again, we are here to offer you readings, whatever it is you're interested in. One or many of us are more than happy to rise to the occasion. We do plan to record again, in this capacity with Love Island and in other pop cultural topics. So stay tuned and thank you so much for listening along. Bye, everyone.